All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are in module 6, which means we only have one more module to go and only a couple of weeks left. So this isn't my actual dog. Why do I never get that right? This isn't my actual dog, but it could be because she looks just like that and she likes to laugh at me. And she's sitting over there right now chewing on a bone, so I hope that's not too loud. Anyhow, so this week we have some really important information and we have a lot of weird deadlines coming up because it's like a convergence of things. There's some stuff we need to do to finish up the class. And so I created a schedule and a calendar. I'll show it to you in a little bit. Hopefully it will make sense. But there's a lot of things to knock off the list. That's kind of what happens when we take a short-term class, right? We're trying to cram a lot of information into people in a short period of time. And I sort of wish we had more time, but we have the time we have, so here it is. Anyhow, I hope you all had a good break over the holidays. I did actually took a couple of days off, and I'm hoping to take at least one more day off by next week because I have a winter intercession class starting not this Monday, but next Monday. So I'm doing one of those 16 weeks and 6 weeks things. So I'm going to be going a little crazy myself. I understand. Anyhow, let me do a screen share and show you what we're going to talk about this week. Like I said, it's a really important topic. It's actually one of the very most important topics, creating accessible content. And a lot of times people think doing things for accessibility is like a lot of work and a lot of trouble, and why do I have to do all this extra stuff? But I'm going to tell you that creating accessible content is it's good design. It's just good design. You don't want to lock anybody out from your stuff. Just like you wouldn't lock the door of your classroom if somebody walked in and they needed some accommodations. We're not going to lock them out of our website. And so there really are some basic, simple things that you can do that will make things a lot easier. And honestly, the student shouldn't have to come talk to you and say, hey, I need this thing. If we just create things well, it will make them open and accessible and give equal opportunities to everybody. And that's what we want. So our goal this week, let me scroll down here a little bit, is to learn the basic relevant internet operations. So we're going to do some file upload and different things relevant to online course development, but mostly to create accessible and equitable learning materials for students using research-based methodologies. And we're going to caption the videos for accessibility and enhanced online learning. There's a few different options for that. Anyhow, we'll get to that in a minute. We're going to hit a couple of these SLOs, number 2 and 3. And so our final project is going to be creating content. Your goal at the end of module 7, to give you the big picture, is you're going to create kind of an introductory orientation module that's going to have several components in it. But one of the components is going to be a welcome video. And you might remember I did a welcome video back in the beginning. And another component is going to be kind of an orientation homepage. All right, so we're going to do that this week. And then next week, build that out into a full module. And so we'll do that here in Canvas Pages. There's several different options. You could create a Google Doc. You could do it in another LMS if you have access to that. Anyhow, the actual delivery doesn't matter as much as the ability to get all the content together. So let's move down here. And what I did is I actually put together the 2 main projects for this module, the welcome video and the homepage. And I gave you the due dates right here up front. Like I said, we're going to have some weird overlapping due dates, and I'll show you the calendar I made. And so that's what this timeline note is. Now, the last day of this course is January 15th. The next day, the first day of the next course, the B31 course, is January 18th. Okay, so that means there's not a lot of wiggle room in between those two. And so we've got some deadlines coming up. We've got some things we have to hit so that I can get everything graded so that you can move on to the next course. And remember, you need 80%, you need to pull in 80%. So basically you need to pull a B on everything or a B average on everything to get credit for the class, which should be pretty easy to do based on what I'm seeing most people do. But you definitely don't want to blow off these last 2 modules. And so these 2 things, assignment checklist, they both go to the same thing. I give you the Google Doc version And I gave you the assignment checklist PDF version, but I'm going to jump over here and show you what I'm talking about. So the top part, what I did is I just went down module by module and listed, here are the do things. These are the do things. If you wanted to print this off and just literally check things off that you did them and maybe write down what score you got, you'll have a good idea if you're going to pass the module or not. I'm pretty sure most people are. Anyhow, coming down here on module 6 and 7, so we're at the end, I put the actual dates right next to the module, the due dates and the things we're doing. And so you'll see this week we're doing the welcome video and a peer review, which is super interesting. Actually, it's a really neat feature. So I'm going to show that to you in a few minutes. And then the course homepage and another peer review. That's why there's some tight timelines, because if you don't get things in on the deadline for those 2 projects, you don't get peer reviewed and you don't get feedback. So, and then module 7, we're going to create the course introduction module, and there'll be a short checking out survey, and we have a final reflection, which is kind of weird to talk about because we have a second reflection this week. So what I did this for me mostly, but I put it on here because I thought it might be helpful to you. I created a 3-week calendar. I like to color code things because it helps me keep track of stuff. Honestly, I made it through grad school on color-coded Post-it notes. Every class was a different color. I put them up on the wall. It's just the way I organize things. So I gave you a list, but I also gave you this calendar. And as you can see, where things get a little dicey is not this weekend, but next weekend. And so I put on here, I know we had the group project that you're all working on. I kind of have all of this week to work on it. There's not going to really be a ton of stuff to do this week, other than the video, which I don't think will take you that long, and the homepage, which I also don't think will take you that long. So what I did is I said, work on the group project throughout this week, but if you can, by the 3rd, try to wrap it up. Like, if you can get it done, that would be good, because you got some other stuff coming up that you're going to want to focus on. And that will give me time to give you feedback also, instead of trying to, spend a 48-hour grading period at the end of the class. So anyhow, if you can get everything submitted by next Sunday, the 3rd, but I still will hold to the 10th as the kind of drop dead deadline on that project. And then next week in module 7, we're going to have that intro module project assigned. So here's where the overlap comes in. Because I know a lot of people are out of the loop this week, and because, there's New Year's Eve and all this stuff, I didn't put the deadline on Sunday. So we'll see how that works out. You can still turn in Sunday if you're done, if you want. But the video is due at midnight on Tuesday the 5th. And then that will automatically open up the peer review process. And so at the deadline of the video, the peer review process will open up. You'll be assigned 3 people to go look at their video. The videos are short, so the whole thing should take you less than 30 minutes to do the peer review, is what I'm thinking. I can't, probably 15 minutes. And so you'll do that part, and then that's due on the 8th, which is Friday. So you got a couple of days to do peer reviews. Also due on the 8th is your homepage. Now the tricky part is your video is supposed to be embedded on your homepage. We'll get to that also. But like I said, we need kind of the timeline here. So Friday at midnight, same process. The homepage will open up, or will be submitted, and at midnight, the peer review will open up. You'll automatically get 3 people to review, and we'll go over what that looks like in a few minutes, and that's due Sunday at midnight. Okay, and then your intro module will be due from Unit 7 Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're going to have the final reflections, the reflection 3, and then the checking out survey will be due on Friday, and that's the end of class. And we're all done. Okay, well, you're all done. I always tell my students at finals week, like, you guys are all done, but my work's just started. Anyhow, and I'm a little bit sad because you guys have been a really fun group. So hopefully that'll be a resource that'll help you out, okay, the assignment checklist. Now, let's kind of go through, and it doesn't really matter what order you do these things in, all right? This time they're not like linked to anything, but let me come down here to the bottom and go next, because the very first thing it's going to talk about is how to create a welcome video. Now, I had a welcome video in the beginning. You guys kind of all made welcome videos in the beginning, but this time you're going to target it very specifically to your students. Okay, so this isn't like an intro video to other members of the class. This is how are you going to frame your class? Like, what are you going to say in a video that's going to give them a good idea of what the class is about, that's going to get them excited about the class, and that's going to give you a chance to, it's going to give you a good chance to set the tone. Okay, like this is how they're going to get to know you. If they were walking in your classroom, you'd have some chance to do some interactions, and they get a feel for your body language and your voice, and how you carry yourself, and things you do. Well, if you're online, they don't really have that unless you give them video. Like there's not really, you don't come through on a discussion forum post. Like, I'm sorry, you just don't. Okay. And so if you can give them a welcome video and continue to use video throughout the class, it really helps bring to life that this is a real person in a real class, that they're really like doing stuff with real people. So that's what this project's about. And it's going to give you some resources. Let me scroll down here, some why a welcome video. There's a lot of supplemental, reading you can do or not do, but I think you'll find it helpful. There's a playlist of welcome videos, example welcome videos. And then there's some different scripts that were put together for like what to say. Now, throughout this module, you're going to see these boxes that have ideas in them. You're going to want to pay attention to those, okay? So this happens to be a welcome video checklist. Here's things you should include, and it gives a whole list, okay? Now, if you're teaching K-12, you will sort of, what you want to talk to the students, because you might want to make a different video that goes to like the parents or the caretakers, all right? So in general, in this video, you're talking to the students. And, it says between 1 and 2 minutes long, or, it could be longer, just don't ramble, okay? Get to the point. You should kind of write out a little script first, or at least like a list of notes of things you want to cover. I always make a list of notes of things I want to cover. I got a list of notes right here, just so that I can glance over and make sure I hit the highlights. All right, so anyhow, this is a checklist. Now on the next page, it's going to talk about captioning. Now, one of my strategies for captioning is that I create everything in Zoom and then I upload it to YouTube, and YouTube does some really good captioning. And so probably within, sometimes it's been within 30 minutes, my videos are captioned. Now, this is the peer review part though, so you got to be a little careful here. So I put some information here. I've got the dates, okay, that you have to pay attention to. Here's a note on peer reviews. If for some reason it lets you submit it after the deadline, you're not going to automatically be assigned peer review partners, okay? And so what you need to do is message me immediately with this subject line, like as soon as you submit it, and as soon as I can go in there and manually connect you up so you can get credit for that part of it. Now there's a section down here on video editing tools. This part in the middle is pretty interesting. Free editing tools like Screencast-O-Matic is really good. There's a lot of good tools in here. Adobe Spark is kind of fun to play with, Animoto. Zoom is free. There's lots of free stuff. If you have a Mac, you've got free tools on your Mac for sure. And then there's a couple of videos that talk about captioning options. So it's YouTube captioning, Flipgrid captioning. Those are kind of useful. Like I said, YouTube just sort of does it automatically, which is really nice. This last part that you really, really want to pay attention to though, because this is the peer review part, okay? And if you've never done this before, you're not going to understand it. And it might seem a little complicated, but I actually went through it and it's not complicated. Like, I think it's fairly straightforward. However, watch these two videos, okay? If you watch these two videos, life will make much more sense. So the first one is kind of from a student perspective, like how do you, like I have to submit something for peer review. Now, how does that all work? And it does a lot of screen sharing and it shows how that works from a student perspective. And this next one's pretty useful because if you do this process and you like it and you want to use it for your own class, this second video actually shows you how to do that. Like, how do you set it up in your own class? The only glitch in the matrix on this one is that there's no way to put a deadline on a peer review. So like I have the peer reviews opening on a certain day and I told you I want it done, but there's no way in Canvas to set a date where it automatically closes. So it's kind of like indefinite until you just tell people to stop. That's actually a known issue. It's on some of the Canvas help forums and things. So there's nothing we can do about that other than please get it done on time. And then down here is your video rubric. And so the rubric is actually what you're going to use to grade the videos. Now, one word on peer reviews is please make sure that you use constructive feedback. And I probably don't need to tell you guys this, but you probably do need to tell your students this if you use peer review with them. I always tell my students to give helpful feedback, the type of feedback they'd want to get if it was their project. For example, when we do presentations, I go through this whole thing. Well, actually, I have them watch a video called Death by PowerPoint, which is super funny, and it's all the stuff you shouldn't do. And so I have them go through and I say, okay, so if somebody is using, I don't know, yellow text on a red background, don't say, oh, wow, that's really horrible. It looks terrible. Say, you know, this is really challenging to read because of the color contrast between the background and the text. You might try, you know, so give the feedback, but offer a possible solution. So I'm going to ask you to do the same sort of feedback on these videos. And you only have to do 3 of them. So it's not going to take you long. Next up is a page on embedding media. And you'll notice like we've got videos embedded all over this place, but you can also embed Google Docs. You can embed pretty much anything with an embed code. And I don't know if you can see this very well, but there's kind of these little angle brackets. And if you've done any HTML coding at all, you'll recognize that because they're HTML brackets. And so when you see that in an editor, that usually means you can go into HTML mode. But when you see it on a media source, that usually means if you click that, you'll get the embed code. And that's something you can just copy and paste. And so there's a video on how to embed the media here in Canvas because there's some really easy tools that make that super nice. All right, so project number 2. And what I recommend is even if today when you see this video, you don't have all the time in the world to do all this stuff, I recommend you go through and at least read the 2 projects, all right, so that you have a clue. So create a course homepage. Now, there's a video on here about like a sample homepage and how to do that. And there's a lot of good information, but here's what we're looking for. We're looking for a page that the students land on when they first come to your course, that orients them to the things that they need to do. So where do they start? Like, where's the instructions? Is there a syllabus? Is there a calendar? What's the structure and the organization of the course? How much, like what technology do they need? Like just go down this whole list and see if you can address that. And I would recommend actually kind of writing it up in a Google Doc or something first and just sort of making an FAQ sort of thing where you just take all of these categories and you go down the list. And so anyhow, there's a whole bunch of stuff here for the course checklist. In the next section, you're going to create a homepage. And so you're going to take all that information, create a page. And like I said, it can be in a Google Doc. It can be in a Canvas page here in our course. You can, if you have like Google Classroom and we can access it, that's the key. We have to be able to access it. Either that or you have to take screenshots that are clear enough that we can read it. Okay, that's the criteria. Anyhow, the dates are on here again. Same thing, the important note on peer reviews. If you don't get your thing in by the peer review, and all you have to do is submit the link. So on this one, there's a video on here that shows how to do this, but on this one down here, you're just gonna click on reply and you're gonna type in, you know, this is my course, give a little bit of detail, maybe like the short, you know, thumbnail version of what the class is, whatever you put on the homepage, and here's the link. Make sure the link's accessible, you know, that it's not locked down or that you've got permission to share it, and make sure we have access to it, or again, embed screenshots, either way. Try to avoid having things that people have to download though, if at all possible. So I think, let me check, I think that's the last one because I think this goes to the next reflection. I was right. So let me go back to home. Anyhow, like I said, stay on top of things, print off that schedule if it's helpful. Use the calendar if it works for you. See if we can stay on track because I want to make sure you guys pass the class. Okay. And like I tell my students, I can't pass you on your good looks and charm. You got to like actually do something. Okay. So this is going to be a fun week because I always love watching your videos. Sign up for a reflection 2 time if you haven't already. If there's already a full slate, then go ahead and ask me, and I can probably add you in if you can't do another time. If we get enough people, I'll add one more time slot, maybe Tuesday night. But right now, we don't. I mean, right now we're doing okay. So unless I get like 5 or 6 requests, I probably won't do that. So if you think you want that time slot Tuesday night at like 7ish, message me because, like I said, if I got 5 or 6 people, we'll let it go. We'll go for it. But read the assignment first, read reflection 2, and come ready to chat or make your video or write your paper kind of in that order. Anyhow, hope you guys had a very happy and restful holiday. Let's get back on track.